Magandang hapon po. Annyeonghaseyo, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning wherever you may be. Welcome to today's event, the special forum organized with the UP Korea Research Center. I am Leiddy from UP Arirang, and I will be your moderator for today's event. We are delighted to welcome our participants joining us in the safety of their homes through YouTube live streaming and Facebook live streaming. The organizers also wish to thank their partner UP Arirang for always making or helping in making events like today's forum more meaningful. Once again, welcome to everyone who joined us virtually. We hope all of you will have a fruitful learning experience this afternoon. Before we begin our program, we would like to remind our viewers of some house rules. You may send in your questions and comments to our panelists throughout the event in the Facebook comment section. Kindly introduce yourself with your affiliation when raising questions or leaving comments. The questions or comments will then be collected and answered during the open forum. We are also reminding that the whole forum is a safe space and thus will not tolerate any form of bullying and trolling, academic or otherwise. The organizer reserves the right to remove all of those who will create any disruption in any part of the program. We would also like to inform you that this event will be recorded. Now, I know all of you here are very excited to begin this program, so we won't we won't keep you waiting any longer. So to formally begin our program, let us call on UPKRC OIC Director, Dr. Kyungmin Be, for her short welcome remarks. Ma'am Be?
안녕하세요. Hello everyone. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Today's event is very special and we are very thankful to have very important guest speakers in today's session. And the reason UPKRC invited them and we organized this event is because UPKRC tries as much as possible to support Filipino scholars and also graduate and undergraduate students to widen their knowledge and learn more about Korea. But we also see that Korea or Korean studies is not just about university or in the academe. So throughout today's forum, we hope more Filipino students, especially junior scholars who are still in graduate and undergraduate level, can also find some potential path that you are the one of the Korean scholars, which we call Filipino Koreanist, and you can really discover something new that you can make use of it in your own life. So hopefully everyone can learn something new today, and everyone can enjoy talking and interacting each other on our Facebook and YouTube live. So enjoy yourself at home and hope to have some more questions later on. 감사합니다. salamat po.
Thank you, Dr. Be, for your warm greeting. So, as Dr. Be said, we hope that you will not just learn something from this, but also enjoy and also get to know Koreanist more. So as you can see, today's event title is called Career Talk with Koreanist Diplomats. So if you have attended various UPKRC's events before, you must be familiar with the term Koreanist. But do you know what it means, or have you been curious about its meaning? Koreanist actually refers to scholars who are from the academic domain, where they study about the Korean language, society, culture, or any other disciplines. In short, they are Korean studies specialists. And in this event, and also as long as UPKRC's research and cultural events are concerned, Koreanists also refer to Filipinos who have gained various experiences in Korea by studying, working, engaging in government or non government activities, and contributed to Korea Philippine relations. We hope that one day you, our audience, or our viewers today, will also become a Koreanist yourself and be part of the community. So I know we're all excited now that we know what the term Koreanist means. Let us meet today's panel members, the Koreanist diplomats that we have been looking forward to. Without further ado, let me introduce today's panel members. The first panelist is Mr. George Mariano Soriano. Sir Gino finished his BS Civil Engineering in UP Diliman and MS Civil Engineering at Pusan National University. He is expected to finish his Juris Doctor from the UP College of Law by July 2022. He joined the Foreign Service in January 2021, and he currently serves as Acting Director at the Office of Asset Management and Support Services of the Department of Foreign Affairs. The second panelist is Ms. Mahgie Bual Lacaba. Ms. Mahgie is a Foreign Service Officer serving as a Principal Assistant at the Office of Asian and Pacific Affairs of the Department of Foreign Affairs. She was a faculty member at the Korean Studies program of the Ateneo de Manila University before joining the DFA. And lastly, to complete our set of panelists, is Mr. Rigoberto Banta Jr. Sir RJ is a Foreign Service Officer currently assigned at the Office of United Nations and International Organizations in the Department of Foreign Affairs. He obtained his Master's of Public Policy degree at the Korea Development Institute, or KDI, School of Public Policy and Management, and is currently taking his Juris Doctor degree from the University of the Philippines College of Law. Prior to joining the DFA, he worked in the international development sector, strengthening partnerships to support Asia Pacific countries and beyond in realizing the Sustainable Development Agenda. For his contribution to strengthening international collaboration, he was awarded honorary citizenship by the Seoul Metropolitan Government in 2018. While studying in Korea, he was also public relations officer, then Vice President of Pinoy Scholars sa Korea Incorporated, or PICO. So let us all welcome Sir Gino, Miss Maggie, and Sir RJ. So it's to all the panelists, it's really nice having all of you here today with us. I am sure that our participants are as curious and are as excited as I am to learn about a lot of things regarding being a Koreanist. So, to officially begin the panel discussion, we would like to ask about the past, more specifically about your journey in South Korea. So, I've been wondering, and I'm sure our viewers have been wondering, Sir Gino, Sir RJ, and Miss Maggie, why did you choose South Korea? Maybe we can start with Sir RJ.
All right, thank you, Leiddy. 안녕하세요. Also, thank you to the Korea Research Institute for inviting us for this event. Maybe just to answer the question, I think I chose Korea because there was an available scholarship. I was in high school, and I was at the time I was applying for different universities, and one of the things that was offered to me was to apply for the Korean government scholarship program. So I applied. Despite having the requirement before of the Korean government scholarship program, it's now called the GKS, a Global Korea Scholarship, of 12 years of education. I applied, and I was doubtful if I would be able to get in, but fortunately I was able to get in. And at the time that I knew that I got the scholarship for an undergraduate degree in Korea, it's actually a total of 5 years, 1 year of language and 4 years of undergrad. I already signified enrollment to the university of my choice, University of the Philippines in Diliman. And but I also heard of the option of deferring. So since I got the scholarship, I said, why not try going to Korea? And the rest is history.
So, it seems like Korea chose you, Sir RJ. So, uh, how about Miss Maggie? Why did you choose Korea?
First of all, good afternoon to everyone, to my co-panelists, and I would like to thank as well the UP Korea Research Center for having us this afternoon. So, why did I choose Korea? Actually, way back in college, so I was majoring in linguistics, and it was quite common back then to study in Korea or Japan as exchange student. So I had an opportunity like RJ actually to apply in this program. So it was not really my original intention to study in Korea, but I had the opportunity to apply as an exchange student, and I also got one of the slots. So I made it to Korea as an exchange student, and yeah, that's it. I cannot say that I chose Korea, but it was an option offered back then. So I took the chance, and then I studied in Korea. So that was my first time to be in Korea and to study in Korea as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so um, studying in Korea really did make an impact, like, to you. So lastly, Sir Gino, why Korea?
안녕하세요, 여러분. Gino pala to. Pwede naman mag-Tagalog, di ba? Or English na lang siguro. Okay. So, Korea. One of my professors in engineering, I'm an engineer by the way, so medyo malayo, referred me to my professor in Korea. So my professor in UP referred me to my professor in Korea. Unlike RJ, he got a KGSP pa nun, di ba? KGSP ba nun sa'yo? Yeah. So, mine is Brain Korea 21. So this for more engineering and science related. So you're affiliated with a laboratory. And during that time, my specialization was the same program being offered in PNU, in Busan National University. So sabi ko, oh, it's like the natural path for me to go. And it's like, it kind of found me in a way. Are you interested in this scholarship? So I said, okay, I'm interested. And then I sent my resume to the professor. And then 30 minutes later, he said, I'm in. So sabi ko, oh, are you sure I'm in? Yeah, okay. And then I was already working in government then. And then I asked my office if they will allow me to go on official time. And during that time, I was in good terms with my office. So they were willing to let me go on study leave for 2 years. Diba? Oh, but I was just 6 months at work. Pero pinayagan nila ako mag 2 years study leave agad. So sabi ko, this opportunity might not repeat itself. The majors match. And it's Korea. 4 seasons. I want to go to a country with 4 seasons. Yun, sabi ko talaga. And then during that time, like Hallyu was going way up. Parang pasikat na yung Korean pop. So might as well, diba? Go to Korea. But I was in Busan, not Seoul. So I was also it's mainstream, but at the same time, a bit different. You know, not a lot of people know Busan. So I said, okay, let's try. And yeah, as RJ said, the rest is history.
So it seems like for the three of you, it's Korea that came to you. It's Korea. It's the opportunity that came to you, and then you just grabbed that opportunity. That's actually quite interesting because nowadays a lot of students are really trying their best to apply for exchange programs in South Korea. Me being one, but but yeah. So where did you study in Korea? Please share us your experiences. Anything that you think is interesting? Any culture shocks? Let's start with Miss Maggie.
So in Korea, as an exchange student in college, I studied in Korea University of Technology and Education. That's a year-long program actually. So yung exchange program na yon, it's about 10, 11 months na program. And Korea University of Technology and Education is in Cheonan. So it's really far from Seoul. And it's totally, because here, UP is just in Quezon City, na napakalapit mo, very syudad siya. So medyo iba yung environment sa Cheonan. And then years after, I took my master's in Gyeonggi. That's about 40 to 50 minutes from Seoul. So medyo iba din. Kahit na ganun siya, medyo shigol type pa rin siya, yung probinsya type pa rin siya. So, hindi siya yung maingay na type. So, that's one of the things I liked about my two institutions. Kasi it's totally different. The environment was totally different. It's very quiet, and you can really uh, kind of makakapahinga ka from whatever stress you've been to here in Manila. So it's a totally different experience. But of course, the first time would always be the most unforgettable one. So the KUT, the exchange student days, because I was still in college, hindi pa ako nakagraduate. So I had to be responsible sa sarili ko. And then back then we were 8 from UP in KUT. And then 4 of us really became close friends. And if I would be sharing a few things from that kind of experience, it's really important. I think it still applies nowadays if katulad mo, lady, that you wish to study in Korea as well. It's very important that one, you have a support system kahit na uh, when I was going to Korea for the first time, I was not really thinking that I needed it. So it just happened naturally because I was with this other students, yung mga kasama ko. So they became my support system. And then we developed friendship until now. We still see each other. And then it would be a kind of experience where you will learn to become more responsible individual. So for one, I was chosen as an exchange student by my university. So I wasn't there just because of my on my personal expense. So I was chosen and I had to uphold sort of the good reputation of the university. And for two, I had to be independent since it I was not with my family. And then it is important also that you're open to meet other people and learn from them. So when I was in Chanan, I really met people from different parts of the world. We became friends, we hung out and learned each other's differences, so our cultural differences and all. So if yun yung share ko talaga is that going out from your comfort zone, marami ka talagang matututunan. So ayun, what about you guys, Gino and RJ?
So how was the experience for you, Sir Gino?
Hi. So I studied in Busan. So it's half countryside, half city. Ganun siya. It's very touristy, even for Koreans. So whenever people say, because sometimes I meet uh, Korean students from Postec or KAIST and then also SNU. When I mention I study in Busan, it's like, oh, they also always mention the beach, so they always think that I'm going on a vacation. Because apparently for Koreans, Busan is a vacation place as well. So it's like Manila Cebu type of relationship. Parang yun yung Cebu, so to speak. City siya, pero you can do a lot of touristy stuff because it's near the ocean. It's a bit more laid back than so, but not super laid back na parang countryside. Hindi siya parang uh, Jeju-do or Gangwon na super tahimik. Yeah, you get the city vibe of Seoul and but you have countryside elements. So okay siya. So I studied engineering. I think for engineering and science, there's the lab culture. I don't know sa liberal arts economics kung may ganun. Essentially, your office and your family in Korea is your lab. And very hierarchical siya. It's like working in a Korean company. Your professor is your CEO, and then the PhD students, they're your senior managers, and then yung aliping sa gigilid kayong lahat na masters. And then you have undergrads na mas aliping sa gigilid sa inyo. So, there's a seniority system. It's a culture shock at first because we don't have it in the Philippines. No matter how old you are, if you are in the same institution, you're equal. But I think Confucianism is very strong in Korea, like the strongest one. So they always ask me how old I am. That's the first culture shock for me. They will always ask you how old you are before asking your name because everything changes, right? What else? So if you're in a lab, it's and they're all guys, so there's an army culture to it. Everyone went to the army, so essentially, uh, you have to follow certain rules. Like, for example, I have to be the first one to come sa lab. Nung bago lang ako. And then you get upgraded. You get upgraded into a senior master student, something. So you have other people to look after. So it's like a company and a army regiment at the same time. And they're all guys, kaya ganun. It was very fun in Busan. In PNU, there were only a few Filipino students. And the two Filipino students with me, they're very studious. So hindi ko sila masyado nakakasama. That's why I reached out to Pico. So kung mag-ano kayo, mag-Pico kayo. And they're all in Seoul. So para daw pupunta din ng Seoul. The good thing about not having a lot of Filipinos is that you have to make friends with a lot of foreigners. Pero level 1 siguro, the English-speaking ones, the Europeans, they're your first friends, at least for me, because you don't know how to speak Korean. And the good thing about Korean language, at least in that setting, learning some Korean helped me make non-Korean friends. For example, a lot of Japanese, Chinese, and Taiwanese students, they prefer to speak in Korean to you than their native language. So they have this group, parang K-pop group or K-fans group. The moment you learn how to speak some Korean, you make friends with the non-English speaking students there who went to Korea because they're a fan of Hallyu or something. Yo. What else? It was super fun. Ano pa, may pag-ibig sa Korea. Magyayama ka na. I met my fiancé there. Oh. So kung ayaw nyo mag-graduate studies for the learning, malay nyo para sa pag-ibig, you can go there to Korea. Alright? So yun lang naman. It was a very fun experience for me. And until now, me and my fiancé, we have fond memories about Korea. And we still speak Korean, some Korean till now. And we're still a fan and of some Korean dramas and food, especially food. So yun. Yun lang naman. RJ?
Yeah, thank you, Gino. I'll just continue from there. I think the question is how is studying in Korea, right? I spent a good portion of my life in Korea, about 12 years. I went to 3 universities there. I first did my language training at the Korean Language Institute of Yonsei University. And then this is under the Korean Government Scholarship Program, KGSP, but now it's called the Global Korea Scholarship, GKS. And then eventually I was sent to Cheonnam National University in Gwangju for my undergrad for economics. And then eventually I went to the Korea Development Institute for School of Public Policy and Management for my master's in public policy. So I think, the KDI, the master's program was in English, so that was really like no problem. But I guess I can share a lot about my undergraduate degree because it was in Korean, but there were classes also in English. So what I can say about studying in Korea, it's really not for the faint-hearted because I really had, it wasn't an easy time. I really needed to study double time. I always had both the Korean textbook and the English textbook. So I would study in the English textbook, and then eventually I would look into the Korean translation, and look at the vocabulary so that I can answer the examinations. So most of the time, the professors are very accommodating naman. If they would, if you're interested, they can also offer you like extra classes after, like consultations and so on. Understand, but you just need to show that you are really dedicated and committed to understanding and then passing basically the classes. Fortunately, I passed the classes naman, and eventually finished the degree. And since at that time I was thinking of doing eventually my PhD, I decided to eventually move on to my master's. On the academic culture, I did economics and it was quite competitive. All of my classmates were very good at math. So, and for me, it's not only math that I needed to tackle, but also the language. So, medyo dalawang issue yun. But on the side, there is also like extracurricular and co-curricular activities. I also entered several clubs, and I was also I also entered the English newspaper arm of the university. I can share a little bit about that because eventually, after serving as a reporter, editor, I eventually became the editor in chief of the English newspaper of the university, the first foreign student to become so. I had this advocacy of saying. Becoming, because even if it's an English newspaper arm, actually all of the meetings were in Korean, so I was heading all of those meetings, editorial meetings. I always had that advocacy that foreign students should not be like alien or like something novel to Korean universities, and that's something that I can resonate. I can perhaps highlight further. My colleagues here, Mahgie and Gina, has mentioned about that your natural friends are international students. From my experience, around 10 to 20% of the student population are foreigners. Well, at least in my university, and then eventually when I went to the graduate school, it's actually majority are foreigners, so that's a different story. But usually universities in Korea have around 10 to 20% for foreigners. So it's really high time for Korea to reconsider the definition of what their student population is. When we say foreigner or Wegugin, there's always this notion that these students are outside, that they're outsiders. And I got to know that in other countries, like in Japan, for example, they don't call their foreign students, but just normal students. So I had that. I had that. I've been always saying that we should be called international students rather than foreign students, just because of the nature that education in Korea is really getting internationalized. So yeah, that's me saying that even if I studied in Korea, even if we studied in Korea, I think there's also this international perspective into it. My closest friends are really from different countries, like from Kenya, from Uzbekistan, from Slovakia, and these countries I wouldn't be able to meet if I stayed in the Philippines. So that's something more that I want to promote to those who are interested to study in Korea, that it's really like a stepping stone to something much bigger than Korea, like basically like opening your doors to the world.
Okay, thank you. So, Sir RJ mentioned that studying in Korea is not for the faint-hearted, and Miss Maggie talked about support systems, and Sir Gino talked about like the culture shock of like having the seniority, the hierarchical culture. So I wonder, since this might be surprising for you, the three of you, when you first came to Korea. So how was like the pressure, the academic pressure you experienced, and then how did you overcome that pressure, especially since like although there are a lot of foreign students there or international students, as Sir RJ mentioned, of course you might feel left out sometimes. So how did you deal with that? Let's start with Sir RJ, since he has a
Okay.
lot of
Yeah.
experiences.
Mm, I guess you just need to be you. You try. But there's this tendency also. I've also seen Filipino students or like general international students. There's two types. One that is very active because they realize they have limited time and they need to make the best out of it. And second is those who are have the tendency of just staying indoors and like not interacting and so on. So the pressure is present, but I guess as an international student who would need to adapt to the new culture, new language, you would need to internalize that you have different skill sets, and these skill sets you would need to convey in a manner that's going to be accepted by the other side, like professors, for example, or like your Korean classmates. So yun, I think yeah, you just need to do that, and yeah, I think and be active, and maybe like extending a little bit further. It's important to have a goal of what you want what you want by studying in Korea. Like, ano bang end goal after ng Korea? Do you want to stay? Do you want to go to another country, or do you want to go back to the Philippines, for example? I always tell this to those who are planning to study to Korea or perhaps overseas. Kasi if you don't have that kind of goal setting, the tendency is you would not be focused on what you want. And we know that we have limited time in Korea, unless of course you plan to eventually stay there. I know some people who eventually stayed there, studied in Korea, eventually found their partner, and then eventually stayed there. But what I'm saying is, it is a privilege, to study overseas, and I think we want to maximize that time. So goal setting is very important.
How about for Sir Gino?
Ano ba sa akin? It was tough nung first semester because talagang para talagang office. But what I found about Korean people is that once you try to understand where they're coming from and you try to learn Korean, because I'm not required to do a 1 year language course, just 6 units of introductory Korean. But when they see you're making an effort to speak Korean, suddenly they mellow down. They're very extremes on both sides. They can be really mean to you sometimes. But once they like you, they really like you. Bibilang ka nilang gamot, kamustahin ka nila, kakautok ka nila parati, inom tayo, ganun. And at least for engineering, I don't know if this applies in the other majors, engineering science, because you're in a lab, you have to work as a team. You have to be a team player because you don't study alone. You always study for the lab because your lab has projects and there's funding involved, and you're always gonna have to work with someone. That's why you need people skills. Hindi pwede yung I don't want to adjust. You have to know Korean culture, why they're like that. You have to study it. You have to put yourself in their shoes. Why is the society this way? Try to see the positive in it. Kasi if you're just, binubuli lang ako ng mga to. No, it's also like a social order kind of thing. Everything's easier because we just take orders from seniors, ganun. And then when we have juniors ourselves, we expect them to comply. Parang ganun, di ba? Madali. Kasi yun lab yun eh. Hindi naman yung parang mag-masters ka, mag-exam ka, di ba? Meron kami mga equipment na sa sobrang laki na maraming preparation work. So you can't do it alone. You need to be in a team. So pag sinabi nilang football, football. Pag sinabi nilang iinom, iinom. Pag sinabi nga hiking, hiking. Dala-dala mo pa lahat ng jugs. No? You have to be prepared. At least doon sa mga science, technology, Arirang members. Alam ko sa liberal arts, walang ganun eh. Walang ganun. Ewan ko kung ganun. Parang nagmamasteral lang talaga sila. Pero if you're in a lab like myself, that's very specific eh. You can't get out of your lab. Kasi magre-report ka ng 9 a.m., alis ka ng 6 p.m. Office mo yun eh. Sila kasama mo parati. So, it's also very... don't agree with romance. Sorry, my comment. But what I'm saying is you have to... immerse yourself in the Korean culture. Because if you don't like it, hindi ka magtatagal. You'll just, ayoko na dito sa Korea, balik na ako sa Philippines. Pero if you see the positive side and, I'm a guest here, I want to learn about their culture. I want to be close to them. They return back manifold. Okay, so that's what I'm saying in the start. Koreans can go both ways. They tend to be very cold if they don't like you. But if they like you, they really like you. So I try to go to the other side. It paid dividends. So nung nakuha ko yung kiliti nila, minsan ako na mismo nagyayaya sa kanila eh. Football tayo or something. Hiking tayo or something. Try to be like this. Hindi pwede, hindi ko talaga trip, ganun. Bawal yung ganun. Nasa ibang bansa ka eh. Diba? Hindi naman pwede kung ano yung ginawa mo sa Pilipinas, yun lang din. Open your mind. Kasi ibang culture na yun eh. Try to understand. Konektado rin siguro ito sa mamayang topics tungkol sa foreign service. You need some mindset like this. You have to put yourself in the shoes of other people. Yun lang yung akin. And I promise you may dividends yan. Sobrang bait nila sa'yo after.
Yeah, I just want to actually interject regarding the dividends. Um, yeah, so as I mentioned, you really need to show dedication and your talent. It may be different, but it is still also can contribute to the benefit of the whole collective. Um, I think another good side in studying in Korea is there hindi sila madamot sa mga opportunities to like say participating in the international conferences, for example. Even as an undergrad before, I had the experience to be sent to around 12 countries by the university. So yeah, if you just really show dedication, commitment, and also that you are willing to, of course, as Gino mentioned, to adapt to that new culture, I think it would really go back to you. So it would come back manifold. So yes.
Thank you. Miss Maggie, what do you
Adding
think?
to what Gina naman and RJ shared earlier. So I think it is also important that nasa Korea ka because you want to be there. So parang wala namang madali actually, but whatever you choose to do, kung nandun yung heart mo, you can always, just naturally adapt to the situation, adapt to the environment, and, naturally make friends with your classmates, ganyan. So in terms of academic pressure, as earlier asked by Leiddy, so I went to Korea for two different reasons. So for what the first one was an exchange student, and I actually did not feel so much academic pressure because we were able to sort of mixed up with other international students and Korean students as well. So we joined lahat, their field trips, their school festivals and all. So para kami talagang part kami ng student community. And the academic pressure came when I was studying masters because of the scholarship. So, syempre, pag hindi ko siya natapos, tapos na yung scholarship mo, um, wala na. So, it's either you just continue using, at your own expense, or you come back here. And then, syempre, ayoko bumalik na hindi pa ako nakaka-graduate. Parang may ganun akong mindset nun. So, but it was difficult, pero kasi gusto ko talaga na matapos ko yung sinimulan ko. So, I think that was the motivation. So, I had the motivation and sort of plan as RJ shared earlier. That's why I think that's one of the reasons why I was able to finish my master's degree. Ibang-iba yung exchange student talaga at yung degree course. Magkaiba siya na yung mga mag-a-apply ng ano dyan, scholarship dyan, magkaiba siyang mundo. Ibang-iba yung pressure uh, sa grad school. Yung sa exchange student, yun yung time ninyo talagang to explore Korea, learn like Koreans do, kasi nasa isang classroom lang kayo, sila din yung classmates ninyo, may group project kayo together. Para talaga siyang yung typical na classroom. Sa grad school kasi yan yung typical na kanya-kanya eh. So iba-iba yung pressure sa inyo, iba-iba yung dating sa inyo nung mga professors, iba yung uri ng pressure. So I think if you love what you're doing, like ma-achieve mo naman yung goal mo. If your goal is to graduate, you'll be able to make it. If you plan to stay in Korea, of course, bago ka palang graduate, dapat meron ka ng gustong applyan, mga ganyan. So, basta you stick to your goal, I think, carry mo naman yan.
Okay, thank you. So, as the three panelists said, it is important to set our goals early and then to adjust, to learn to adapt to Koreans, to the culture of South Korea. So, the last question for the past, aside from the degree or the exchange program you experience, what other memorable experiences do you happen to chance about? A pan. Perhaps Sir RJ may also share your particular long-term work experience in South Korea.
Okay. All right. Um, yeah, maybe I'll just share some. Um, uh, The most memorable, I guess, is really traveling around Korea. I've traveled around 2/3 of the country, traveling each and every city. And what's memorable there really is yung connectivity nila. You can just go to the train or like bus station and like take any train, take any bus, and then you would be sure na makakarating ka on time doon sa station, and then merong kang pagsastayan nearby, and merong access dun sa mga yung mga sites nearby. And that one, kahit sa mga pinaka rural places, I remember walking dun sa Mungyong Seje, the Trail of Scholars, or visiting remote islands like Changgudo in Boryong City. I also made it to a point to visit important spots for Philippine-Korea relations, including the War Memorial, both in Yeoncheon and Goyang. Usually Goyang lang yung pinupuntahan, but really the most important one is the one in Yeoncheon, where we won the Yultong battle. I also visited the birthplace of Saint Andrew Kim Tae-gon in Hapcheon, where his records of his stay in Lolomboy, Bulacan is still exhibited. He's the first Korean saint, by the way. And then I also visited Uido in Shinan, in Cholado. This is the birthplace of Moon Sunduk, the fisherman recognized as the first ever Filipino-Korean translator recorded in the annals of the Chosun dynasty, or Chosun Wangjo Shillok. So really, like traveling around Korea is something that's very memorable to me. I think the only regret that I have is I wasn't able to visit the other side of DMZ, North Korea. I visited all of the UNESCO heritage sites in Korea, but there are some World Heritage sites that actually has some counterparts in North Korea. So that's a dream that I always want to fulfill one day. Another memorable memory to me is TV guesting. I guested in several TV programs, including Pijong Samhwaedam. I think everyone knows about that. Or Pijong Samhwaedam is non-summit or abnormal summit to most of you. And finally, I can also share this dinner that I had with Sandara Park. It's memorable not because it's Sandara Park and not because it was in the Blue House during the state visit of the then President Benigno Aquino III, but it was because of what she said to me. She told me, because I was speaking in Korean to her, and then she was speaking in Filipino to me. And after the dinner, I still remember it very vividly. She told me, you should give a chance to Koreans staying in the Philippines to learn your language and culture, because the tendency of most Filipinos to speak in English to them. So for her, it was her interest in the language and culture that really led her to understand, to learn Filipino language and culture. So yeah, that's always something that I would remember in my time in Korea.
How about for Miss Mahgie?
Memorable experience. I think same with RJ kasi medyo laga-laga akong tao. So, I was able to travel different parts of Korea. But one of the most memorable ones is that I was able, syempre nung exchange student ako, bata-bata pa ako doon. And I was there during the Sandara Park, the 21 generation. And then we joined this school festival in our university. So, so nagpaka 21 girl group kami ng mga barkada ko kasi apat kami naging close friends. So, doing things na parang kami nag-YOLO during that time. So, wala pang concept na no, of YOLO, or iba pa yung tawag ng concept nun sa YOLO. So, it's like you're living the moment talaga. So, yung mahalaga talaga na lumabas ka. Okay? So, hindi ka lang nandun just to study, parang makibahagi ka rin sa culture, sa culture ng school, ng mga ibang students katulad mo. So, isa yun sa mga memorable experience. So, sana hindi lumabas yung video nun. Pero, napaka-memorable ng experience. Not just for me, I think, para I think pati rin sa mga friends ko na involved dun sa festival na yon. So ayun, mga fun times na hindi mo siya malilimutan kahit tumanda na kayo, yun pa rin yung pagkakwentuhan nyo. It's just exact the same story, pero hindi nyo siya pagsasawaan na pagkwentuhan. So I think yun yung isa sa mga bagay na ma-share ko, adding to what RJ shared earlier.
Okay, thank you. So if Sir RJ met Sandara Park, Miss Maggie became Sandara Park. So, Sir Gino, what was your memorable experience in Korea?
Oh, memorable experience in Korea. Nakaturo na siya. Oh. Yung fiancé ko nakaturo na sa sarili niya. Siyempre yun, di ba? For me, like, yeah, like what they said, there's a lot of opportunities in Korea for festivals, tourism, ways to go around. Tagalogin ko lang kasi nandito yung fiancé ko. Ganito, pag nasa Korea kayo, i-maximize nyo yung kagandahan ng lugar. Ha? Kasi, kunyari, autumn, o di ba, ang daming nalalaglag na dahon. Kung meron kang gustong i-date, dali mo sa Korea, tapos maglakad-lakad kayo doon, di ba? Memorable yon. O, di ko na sabihin kung saan kami nagpupunta, nakatingin eh. Di ba? Parang iniisip ko kasi, kumbaga kung nasa Pilipinas ka, kunyari nasa Diliman ka, siguro makakadiskarte ka naman sa Sunken Garden or sa Academic Opal. Pero iba pa rin, kunyari, nasa Seoul, nasa Nami Island ka or something, di ba? Memorable daw eh. Ito naman si RJ. Ayun na lang. Pero, like, yun, I think also, with the Filipino community, I'll be serious a bit. I was very close with the Filipino community in Busan. We had a lot of celebrations together. Tatandaan ko, nagpasko kami together. Yun. Kasi usually pag nasa Pilipinas ka na with family kayo, memorable sa akin yung magpasko outside. Yeah. Oh, yan. So that's where you need your Filipino friends. But it never hurts to have pag-ibig. Magandang advice kung talagang, kasi syempre minsan dry na yung buhay mo sa Korea, aral ka lang ng aral, di ba? Tapos kulang na yung allowance mo. Might as well, di ba, pakasaya ka ng konti. Try mo lang. Yan ang akin. But take advantage of all the Korean drama places. Nandun ka na eh. Di ba? So keep that in mind pag nag-apply kayo ng MS, no? Lista nyo na lahat. Tapos, kaibiganin nyo lahat ng exchange students na nandun. May dividendo yan. Very good.
Thank you, Sir Gino. I think more people are now motivated to go to Korea. But I'm not sure if Sir RJ and Miss Maggie agree. Anyway, moving on. We'll talk about the present, or you today as the Koreanist Diplomats in the Philippines. So, can you say that living in Korea benefited or helped you pursue your career now, or at least you come closer to your dreams? In what way? Miss Maggie?
Definitely nag-benefit ako ng malaki sa pagpunta ko sa Korea and living in Korea as well. No? It opened a lot of opportunities for me. When I came back from Korea, my first job was a teaching job, as mentioned earlier by Leiddy. So I was part of the Ateneo Korean Studies program. And then, kung hindi ako nagpunta sa Korea, I will not be able to take that academic path and meet wonderful people at the Ateneo. And of course, we interacted a lot pa rin kasi sa Korean universities. At marami rin akong lessons na na-learn from that. I participated in several conferences here and abroad. And if not for my Korean background, hindi ako magkakaroon ng ganong uri ng opportunity. But sa DFA naman, nakatulong siya, of course, ng malaki sa pagpasok sa DFA kasi because, syempre, outside, nakikita mo yung ibang mga Pilipino, nakikita kayo, and then, nagkakaroon ka ng exposure, nagbibisita ka sa embassy, nagkakaroon ka ng iba't ibang uri ng exposure. And sometimes, naisip ko na I might want that kind of job in the future. So, kaya eto, nandito ako ngayon. I was enjoying my life at the academy, but I was inclined to exploring something else. That's why nandito ako ngayon sa DFA. So definitely, malaki yung tulong ng aking Korean experience sa kung nasaan ako uh, right now. So, ayun. Maraming, in short, maraming opportunities na nag-open because of my Korean experience.
Thank you, Miss Maggie. Sir Gino?
Well, medyo seryoso na ako ngayon. So, seryoso naman yung kanina. But like, Korea benefited me to land in my present career, so to speak. Because actually, I didn't know that there was an occupation called a foreign service officer before I went to Korea. So I'll tell you why. The first time I heard about this job is when I volunteered to open the honorary consulate of the Philippines in Busan. So I was with some Filipinos there in Busan. We tried to organize the opening of this consulate, and then like, a lot of dignitaries came. So, and then our uh, DLLU si Asek ano no si Asek Hernandez. He was our ambassador back then, no. And then when he came there to open the honorary consulate, he was inviting a lot of the Filipino students to try out the foreign service exam. And I had no idea what that was because I was an engineering student. That's not my path. No? Only to find out years later, I will end up in this occupation. No? uh, uh, oh yeah, hi. Yeah, I think all of us were with Amba Hernandez. No? Very specific way Korea helped me. I'm the Filipino scholars. I was always exposed to the embassy in Seoul. I met a lot of DFA people there. Of course, sa embassy. Tapos si RJ, tinulungan akong kunin yung transcript ko sa Korea. Hindi ako makakapag-apply ng FSOE kung hindi ko makuha yung authenticated transcript ko. Kasi nasa Pilipinas na ako. So it also helps to build the Filipino community overseas, which is essentially what you're going to do if you become a foreign service officer. You connect with Filipinos abroad. So always good to reach out. And Korea helped me. I think any foreign country would help you in this manner. When you're overseas, you're more keen on finding Filipinos. Parang gano'n. Gusto mo nakakakita ka ng kabayan. Parang dito, nasa Hong Kong ngayon eh. Parang kami, pag nasa restaurant, gusto kong hulaan, Pilipino kaya yan. Tapos magtatagalog ako. Parang so yeah, not particular to Korea, but living in a foreign country gives you this sense na trying to reach out to Filipinos overseas. So that really helps if you want to go into DFA because that's what you eventually do anyway. Right? Ayun lang naman. So yun, I discovered that there's a job called an FSO in Korea. Hindi ko alam na may ganun palang trabaho. It turns out, yun yung magiging work. Yeah, yun lang.
Yeah, for me naman, I guess so. Studying in Korea and also living in Korea, we've met. I was able to meet foreigners. Na, as I mentioned, I would not meet if I was in the Philippines. I guess meeting these foreigners or friends now from different countries around the world really made me think or reflect about myself as a Filipino and like my identity as Filipino. So it also kind of made me reflect on my position, on the Philippines' position in the community of nations. So it really fed my curiosity. And also during my time in Korea, apart from academics, I mentioned I was also active in extracurricular and co-curricular activities. I was also participating in numerous youth forums, both in Korea and overseas. And I also led projects to promote Philippine culture in Korea, and that really deepened my desire to represent the Philippines. And also resonating to what Gino has mentioned, I guess the first-hand experience of seeing the work of the department through, of course, our embassy, and then their engagement with the Filipino community there. We call them Philcom now. On my side and Gino and Maggie's side, we were all part of the Pinoy Scholars of Korea. I was an officer of PICO for quite some time. And I think the interactions that we had with the embassy enabled me to see firsthand the work of the department in their interaction with Filipino communities overseas. And also, I guess they were very much also encouraging everyone to take the exam. My only issue back then is um, ang hirap kasi sa Korea ako nagtatrabaho, so I need to take the exam in the Philippines. No? So, and it's a 5-stage exam, so I need to come back and forth. So I guess the strong encouragement of our diplomats in Korea really encouraged me to take the exam, and now eventually I'm here. So just going back, the experience there really fed my curiosity, and then doing activities there deepened my desire to represent the Philippines, and then eventually the first-hand experience really locked in my decision to take the exam and eventually join the foreign service. And of course, help Gino in his documents. Ayan.
So it was nice knowing that studying in Korea or living in Korea really benefited the three of you and also impacted your career choice or your career path. Now that all of you are working at the DFA, what currently excites you as you work for the DFA? Sir Gino, let's start with you.
My work is very kasi administrative, so it's not stereotypical na exciting. What excites me about my job? The prospect of being posted. Woo! Yeah, yung fiancé ko mga ganun. Yeah, sa akin yun lang talaga. Also meeting a lot of people. Marami kasi yung nagka-courtesy call na embassy, so may mga coordination din sa kanila. Ganun, mga missions. I think pare-pareho naman eh. Ay hindi, si RJ pala multilateral. How much do you love your job daw sabi ni display. Siyempre, mahal namin yung trabaho namin. Pero it's a good job. I think the most exciting prospect for me is like going overseas and meeting Filipinos overseas. Also, what else? Siguro matagal na akong civil servant. This is my 3rd government agency. So, job opportunity for public service in whatever capacity that is. It can be as dry as processing a disbursement voucher. It's important. It's not exciting. But at least in your head, it says, oh, you're making things happen. You will see some results at least. And the others, kasi iba-iba yung nature ng work namin eh. So maybe Mahgie and RJ will have different opinions on what makes the job exciting.
Let's hear from Sir RJ.
Yes. So currently, I work at the Office of United Nations and International Organizations in the department. Specifically, I am the officer in charge for the governance division. But not delving too much into what kind of work we are doing. Maybe what I can share is so I spent a total of I also worked in Korea pala. I work in Korea. I work for an international organization that supported education in the Asia Pacific. And while working there for around 6 years, I hear lots of stories of development. Like Korea is of course a good story of development. That's the major reason why I took economics, and eventually I did public policy in the Career Development Institute, which is the research institute that develops the development plans of Korea. But in any case, in my work, so I hear lots of development stories, and one of the most powerful stories that I've heard is the one from Ban Ki-moon. Ban Ki-moon, he used this textbook. I don't know if you can see it. It's a copy of that textbook that he used, and this textbook was funded by the United Nations. So right after the Korean War, Korea was devastated; it had nothing, and of course, education was also devastated. So the United Nations funded, funded the printing of the building of printing presses and the printing of textbooks so that they can use something in school. And then in his speech during the launch of the Global Education First Initiative, or GEFI, Ban Ki-moon said that the boy standing there, doing the speech, that used the books that donated by the United Nations, sitting in classrooms with with dirt floors, eventually became the United Nations Secretary General. I think these kinds of stories, they're very powerful, and I think this really motivated me to go back home and search for these kinds of stories, and hopefully eventually we'll have a story as powerful as that. A story na where as a responsible member of the international community, we are contributing and we are also receiving help, and eventually we become a developed nation, and that it's now our turn to give back to the international community. So that's what excites me in my work. Hopefully, I'll be able to dig more of these narratives, not in Korea, but in the Philippines, naman, so that one day we'll be able to share those stories, and that we'll have a story as powerful as the one that Ban Ki-moon just said. That I shared, that Ban Ki-moon said.
Thank you, Sir RJ. Um, Lastly, we have Miss Maggie.
Okay, so what excites you currently as you work at the DFA? We are still junior officers. So for now, in my case, I just look forward to what I will be dealing with each day. And I'm still in the process of learning. And if you noticed earlier when Leiddy introduced us in the beginning, we came from different offices. So we work in different offices, and we have different our nature yung ng work namin, the nature of our work ay different then. So Gina is kind of the admin side. uh, in my case, I work bilateral side, and RJ naman is more on the United Nations. So medyo multilateral, international yung kay RJ. So if you, to those who wish to be a foreign service officer, ito yung isa sa hindi ko alam dati. Okay? So, na marami naman talagang aspect yung yung work ng pagiging diplomat, but it's really good that you are aware earlier. Okay? Kesa yung nandun ka na, saka mo pa lang siya malalaman, no? Siguro isang malaking perks then na aware ka na may iba't ibang nature ng job sa DFA, and you have to be ready kung saan ka ilalagay. Okay, so you don't always have a choice, and then kaya you don't always have a choice, kaya siguro sa case ko kasi medyo ma-action yung office namin. So nilulook forward ko na lang kung ano yung matutunan ko everyday, because one day you'll be in the Senate, one day you'll be somewhere else, one day you'll be sent someplace. Okay, and then eventually after a few years you'll be posted, and you also nowadays we can signify where, pero at this very moment hindi mo pa alam kung saan ka pwede, no? So meron ka palagi kang may nilook forward sa job na to. Okay, so siguro yun yung isa sa pwede kong masabi na exciting part ng work namin. So I think that's it. Yung merong something to look forward to every single day is one of the reasons na meron kang motivation to continue sa career mo as a diplomat.
Okay, thank you, Miss Maggie, Sir RJ, and Sir Gino. I'm sure the viewers learned a lot from those, and I'm sure they are more interested to read more about the work at the DFA, and probably someday they too will try to work for the DFA. Now, I'm also sure that the students or the viewers now are really interested to know the answer to this question. So, the last question for the present for your Koreanist diplomat in the PH journey, can you share any tips for the Filipino students who wish to pursue graduate studies in Korea? Is there any?
Maybe I'll start.
Yeah.
um, First, when I think it's the same for Gino and for Maggie. When we studied in Korea, we didn't really had the luxury of having time and resources, I guess, to search for all of this information online, or most of the information is that actually not available online. For me, I got information through official channels, like talagang printed paper, and so when it was like brought to me. So I think it's really a good time to look for scholarships online. But what I want to say is look at different scholarships. It's not only the Korean government scholarship, as was shared a while ago. We come from different scholarship backgrounds, Gino, Maggie, and myself. So look also at foundations like POSCOR, like Korea Foundation, for example. Look at universities. Universities also have their own scholarships. Some professors have also recruit graduate students in their laboratories, which includes scholarships. So yeah, please look into that. Another tip that I want to share is I really think it's a huge advantage if you speak Korean and if you have TOPIK. Um, TOPIK, as you know, changed just recently to TOPIK 1 and TOPIK 2. And even TOPIK 1, I think that would really signal na you're interested in adapting to Korea by learning Korean language. So just take the exam, and just so that you have certification, no. And then finally, I just want to reiterate what I mentioned earlier. Um, while you endeavor to study in Korea, it's also equally important to be sure of what you want to do while like after Korea, no. So you need to have an exit strategy in goal setting. You If you have a goal, you'd be able to really kind of mold your time in Korea while studying. So like, and then you can add activities that can enrich your experience towards your end goal. So yun, those are my 3 tips for our viewers today.
Oh, thank you for that, Sir RJ. How about Miss Maggie?
So in my case naman, i-re-echo ko yung sinabi ni RJ, no? Kasi marami na ngayon na opportunities talaga na kung saan pwede mong malaman yung mga scholarship sa Korea. So the thing is, dahil nandiyan na siya, okay, so you really have to work on it and grab the opportunity kasi nandiyan na siya. So libre siya, wala siyang bayad, and it's up to you, okay? So medyo kailangan mo talaga ng uh, kailangan mo mag-effort. Okay, so since nandiyan yung opportunity, all you have to do is make an effort to make your application um, na mag-stand out. Okay, so para syempre, ang competition ngayon I think is also difficult because you're competing with slots with other international students. So usually hindi lang naman sa Philippines yung slot, marami kang kalaban. So you have to make your application um, na mag-stand out pag kinumpara sa ibang international students. So, lagay mo na lahat. Wala namang mawawala kapag nilagay mo na lahat doon. And also, check the embassy websites from time to time, the Korean embassy websites, kasi updated yun palagi. So, that's actually where I found out about my graduate school scholarship because I was not qualified sa KJSP that time or yung GKS na ngayon. So, sa website lang ako ng Korean Embassy sa Philippines nakakuha ng information about the scholarship. So, yun ang reason kung bakit ako nakapag-aral sa grad school ng libre. So, ayun yung mga bagay or mga pwede mong tignan online. And of course, since mag-a-apply ka pa lang naman, you choose the degree program that you would love. Okay? Kasi wala na siyang atrasan pag nandun ka na. If you don't like what you're studying, it would be difficult for you to finish it. So start something na gusto mo na yun na yung gusto mo. Not just because yun yung feeling ko marami pang slot or mas may chance ako. So, I think mas maganda kung kukunin mo na yung program dahil yun na yung gusto mo. Okay, so yun yung mga tips na pwede kong ma-share sa inyo. And then I think George or Gino would add something.
Ay, actually wala na eh. Nandyan naman na lahat. Actually, more of willingness mo na lang to take the scholarship. In my case, personally, hindi ako naganap eh. Kasi hindi ko ma-share. So, parang nahanap ako. So, just be open. Although, ako naman nasa other side of the coin, pag kailangan ng mga prof ng scholars, nag-share ako. Ako yung parang recruiter, kumbaga. Trafficker, de joke. recruiter ng mga engineering students or science students when they need. Because there's the embassy path, there's the school, university, and there's also like professor level. If you know a professor, you can ask. If your professor knows a professor, yun yung akin eh. My professor knows a professor. And then ni-recommend ako. So, yun. Pwede ko palang ma-recommend. Be close to your professors. One day, they might think of you. Ewan ko bakit ako yung naisip ng prof ko. Siguro kasi very narrow yung field na inaaral ko. So, konti lang yung tao. Kami-kami lang din. Kaya, yeah, super dami. Pico page, yeah. Punta kayo sa Pico page. KRC. Nandiyan na kayo. Nandiyan na yung KRC. Dami talaga. Maraming avenues for scholarship. Unlike back then, hindi naman super tanda na natin. No? Pero back then, hindi siya kasing dami ngayon na parang you can find it anywhere. Of course, maintain good grades. 2 and above, preferably. Kasi syempre may iba mag-a-apply. Okay din na may work experience. Sa science and engineering, malaking leg up yung may work experience. Kasi, ayun, meron kang industry mindset. Hindi naman kasi siya, kunyari engineering, hindi mo siya puro libro lang eh. Kailangan may nagawa ka na dati. So, malaking plus yun, kahit hindi ganun kaganda yung grado mo. Okay. I don't know if it applies. I think sa media ganun din eh. Or public ad ganun. If you've had prior experience, syempre, leg up yun. 1 to 2 years, okay na yun. So, kung medyo alanganin ka sa grado, dagdagan mo ng work experience. Yun lang. Yun lang ang tip ko. Kasi sa engineering, medyo mababa mga grades namin. So, kailangan mo ng konting pandagdag. No? So, medyo rare sa amin yung mataas yung grade, at least dati. So, yun yung pambawi mo. Maglagay ka ng konting work experience if the field requires or appreciates work experience. Yun lang. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Gino. Thank you also to Miss Maggie and Sir RJ. So, thank you for all those advice. I'm sure the viewers are now taking notes. Let's move on to the last question. This one is about the future, about continuing your connections with a K. So, do you have any future plans in your personal or professional life in regards to to being a Koreanist? Miss Maggie?
Siguro hindi ko naman lose yung connection ko sa UPKRC in general. And then, kasi as I said before, I was teaching. So, I think even though I'm already here at the DFA, not right now, I will find time to still write something on Korea. Okay, so, and then, of course, always read something about Korea. And then I wish to of course, learn more about Korea, even though I majored in Korean studies back in master's. So I think I still have a lot of things to learn, and I wish to pursue that in the future. And regardless whether it would be helpful in my career or not, but I intend to further my studies or my knowledge about Korea kasi. So I'm really interested to learn more. Kaya uh, in the future, yun pa rin yung mindset ko. Hindi pa rin ako uh, I think not in the near future ako mawawalay sa pagiging into Korea or Korean studies.
Thank you, Miss Maggie. Sir Gino?
Ano ba yung akin? I think keeping K connections. May, of course, mga seniors ko, bumabati pa rin naman sila. Happy birthday. I really believe kasi in people-to-people connections. Yung institutional, in my case, usually incidental to the personal. It's personal first and then institutional after. Parang kay Miss Bay, for example, no? Personal, then naging institutional. What else? So if ako kung kunyari kayo mga nandito na viewers, you get a scholarship in Korea, don't lose your connection with your professors. They know a lot of people. Actually, ngayon dito ko na lang sabihin, I was choosing between DFA and job in Korea. Parang kasi ni-refer ako ng prof ko sa isang Korean company looking for a consultant. So parang pinag-isipan ko ano yung gusto ko. So ibig sabihin nun, keeping your connections, may dividends din talaga yun. The personal connection. Okay. So don't lose that. As for me, may PICOM, may KRC. I think that's already a lot. You meet other scholars, Filipino scholars. Gusto ko yun, mga nakilala ko sa Korea, in touch ka pa rin sa kanila. Yan, si RJ, never naman mawawala yan. Andyan. Si Mahgie, nandyan, matchmates ko. So, and connections you want to keep. And we also have other batchmates pala with Korean backgrounds and other officers who in one way or another studied in Korea. So those are the K connections I will really maintain, of course. And try to, Pico, i-like nyo rin yung page, KRC, ganyan. Marami sila. They're very willing to introduce you to other people who went to Korea and you'll have more K connections. Even in law school, di ba RJ, may mga K connections din dun bigla-bigla. Yun.
Alright. Sa akin naman, I guess I really can't say professionally, because of course that would require clearance and authorization from our principals. But personally, what I hope to see, it is an idea, because I really can say right now what are the steps that should be taken, or what I can do. But I guess this is something that I can also pose to the viewers today. Returning to the Philippines after 12 years in Korea made me realize that despite the fact that the Philippines is the nearest Southeast Asian country outside of Northeast Asia for Korea, there has been very little or no historical exchanges between Philippines and Korea that is recorded. All right. So we only have the Korean War, but other than that, do regular Filipinos or Koreans know anything about historical exchanges between the Philippines and Korea? So I really hope that beyond K-pop or K-drama for Filipinos, or the fantasy of Boracay and golden mangoes for Koreans, I really hope that we can take a deeper look into the historical ties beyond the Korean War. And perhaps Filipinos will also be able to see themselves in another light. So I mentioned earlier about Saint Andrew Kim Tegon and the Filipino-Korean translator Moon Sunduk. I hope that more studies regarding historical connections between the two countries flourish. Personally, not professionally, because that would require more discussion. I really hope to be able to contribute to that discussion, so that we can promote Philippine-Korea relations beyond what we see, beyond what we know and see right now, and the deeper we go, I guess, the stronger the ties will be. So yeah, let's help each other, and hopefully we'll see more of this activity, of relevant activities in the future about this. Thanks.
Okay, so now that ends our panel discussion. Thank you very much to our panelists for the meaningful talk we just had. Moving on, the session is now open for questions and comments. I've seen a lot of questions on the chat. You may send them through YouTube and Facebook live chat box. If possible, please introduce yourself with your affiliation when raising your questions. So I will be reading a few questions that have been collected throughout the session. Okay, so the first question is from Dayan Aratnakla. Am I still eligible to apply for a master's scholarship in Korea, given that it has been 3 years since I earned my bachelor's degree in diplomacy?
Yes.
Who would like to answer the question?
Maybe the short answer is yes, because usually the eligibility naman is just the bachelor's degree kahit kailan mo siya na-obtain. Or kapag ma-obtain mo pa siya, you must have obtained it prior to, usually, ito yung usual rules, you must have obtained it prior to your entry sa university na pupuntahan mo. So, since you already have your bachelor's degree, you are definitely qualified, but you have to check, because I don't know how other information about Ma'am Dayan, but maybe check na lang yung mga minsan kasi you must be at this specific age upon application, may mga ganon. So i-check na lang po natin yung mga ganong information. But in terms of kung dahil 3 years ka na nag-bachelor's degree or kahit 5 years pa yan, as long as may degree ka, of course, you're eligible for a master's scholarship. And check everything.
Okay, thank you, Miss Maggie. The next question. Okay, so from Ro Evangelio, any advice for someone who wants to take FSOE in the future? What kinds of things I need to learn to prepare me for the exam as early as now? I think others also ask the same question. So if is there anyone who would like to answer the question?
Sige, ako na lang kasi ako yung may pinakamalayong degree. Okay, how did I prepare? News. Alam niyo yung crash course ni John Green sa history? Panoorin niyo lahat yon. YouTube niyo lang lahat. Ano, kaya ng maraming balita, current events. Saka, any advice who wants to take the FSOE in the future? Mag-review kayo ng mga college entrance reviewers. Akala nung iba yung written test yung pinakamaraming nadadali. Actually, maraming hindi pumapasa sa first. Nakalimutan mag-math, nakalimutan mag-English, ganun. Doon muna. Kasi iba parang kunyari kumuha na sila ng courses from a university tungkol sa international relations, mga ganun. Nakalimutan nila ano yung mean median mode. Di natanggal na sila sa first exam pa lang, di ba? Yung mga basics natin, tandaan natin ulit. And then you worry about this after. You can enroll in ako personally kasi ni YouTube ko lang lahat ng alam ko sa Google. So kaya siya. No? Yung foreign language, Spanish, kasi kung wala kang foreign language talaga, kayang i-YouTube. Promise. Kaya. At least basic lang, hindi naman mahirap eh. Yun lang. Sa kabalita, maging malay na Pilipino. Kasi may nakalagay doon sa dito, Philippine conditions. Feeling ko yun yung nagpasa sa akin eh. Basta alam mo kunyari presyo ng galunggong, mga ganun. Ilang milyong Pilipino na ba meron ganyan. Ano ang inflation rate natin? Mga ganung bagay. Magkano pa masahe sa jeep? Baka itanong eh. Minsan nagtatanong sila kung ano nasa likod ng barya eh. Anong nasa likod ng 100 pesos? Meron atang exam na ganun. Mga tidbits of Filipino culture na sana alam mo naman bilang Pilipino. Ganyan. I think may ibang advice yung mga kasama ko rito. So, yun lang ang akin. Coming from zero, kaya naman siya ipasa.
Sir RJ, Miss Maggie, maybe you want to add something?
Ah, Nagkagata si RJ, so ako muna. So, kay Rogue. Hello, Rogue She. So, any advice for someone who wants to take the FSOE in the future? Yung FSOE, so sabi nga ni Gino, mahalaga na ipasa yung stage 1 kasi meron siyang 5 stages. So, yung mga iba nagpe-prepare na dyan, of course, awareness sila na merong 5 stages yung FSOE. So, kung gusto niya talaga siya i-take, wala namang required background kung ano, si Gino is an engineer. So, kahit anong background, okay lang. Wala namang paki doon kahit ano pa yung major ninyo ng college. So, in my case, if this is helpful for you, ang hindi ko siya pin-repair all at once. Kasi I did not have the luxury of time to do so. So dahil 5 stages siya, I prepared for stage 1. And then bago ako mag-stage, dun pa lang ako, pag nakapasa ako sa stage 1, that's the only time I would prepare for stage 2. So per stage ko rin siyang ginawa kasi wala ko masyadong time. I understand that other people really prepared for almost all stages kasi marami silang time mag-prepare. Okay? So sa case ko kasi wala ko masyadong oras na maghanda para dun sa exam, and I also decided to take the exam medyo last minute na. So pin-prepare ko muna yung stage 1, yung self ko sa stage 1, and then after stage 1, that's the only time I prepared for stage 2 para hindi rin masyadong pressure sa self mo na, oh my God, kailangan alam ko na yung GDP ganyan-ganyan at this time. Hindi naman. Okay? So isa-isahin. Pwede mo siyang isa-isahin. So yun yung ginawa ko sa case ko. Yung iba hindi ganun yung strategy, pero yun yung nag-work sa akin. Okay? So it might also be helpful for you kung kaya ganun kang uri ng tao that you can do the stage by stage basis. So ayun lang, Rogshi. 감사합니다.
For me, I think just adding to what Gino and Maggie, by the way, my batchmates said, just take it. Just take it. That's my first and foremost tip, and I guess the best tip also. I was also a bit I guess anxious on whether or not I would pass this exam or not, or if I would even take the exam kasi I was in Korea, diba? So I need to fly for all of the exams. But I realized if I did a bit of self-reflection, if I will I regret if I will not take it. So ako sabi ko na lang, okay, sige, let's just take it. So I applied. And then si Gino din nag-apply din the same year. So I was able to help out with his documents while I was in Korea. But what I want to say here is taking the exam and passing and entering the department are two different things. So it's an exam in itself. So anyone who's interested and you would feel one day you would regret not taking it in your life, my advice, just take it. Maybe just keep it to yourself muna. Don't tell it to anyone. The exam is 500 pesos for the whole 5 stages. I don't know if it has changed, but alam ko 500 pesos pa rin. So yeah, if again one day you would say to yourself, sayang sana nag-exam ako, just take it. You can take it several times. So in case na after the exam you would want to take the exam again, hindi take lang ng take. Yon. So again, just the very yung basic stuff important, but also important for you to apply. So yeah, it takes yeah. So yeah, good luck to our prospective exam applicants.
Thank you for the advice, Sir RJ, Mahgie, and Sir Gino. For the next question, I'm applying for GKSU this September. What can you advise naman po for undergraduate knowing po na there's only one seat reserved for PH for bachelors?
Okay, I guess I'm qualified to answer this question. Um, Well, I've mentioned a while ago na in my year, we only had 2 slots for the Philippines. Pinakamarami talaga yung masters if I'm not mistaken. Tapos pinakakonte yung PhD, and then second na pinakakonte yung undergrad, slots for undergrad. But in any case, in any case, um, Filipino high school graduates now have the advantage because you're K to 12. So hindi na tatanungin ng Korean government to NIED kung bakit 10 years lang education natin. At that time, I hindi pa ako K to 12. So yun, at least that one is okay na. And then second, I think there are schools that actually offer Korean language for their electives. So I highly, as I've mentioned in the tips, I highly encourage everyone wanting to study in Korea to have to take Korean classes, and if possible, take TOPIK. At least level 1, kasi it really signals that you're interested and you're invested into studying and understanding the language and culture. So that's my tip. But but since there's only one slot for the undergraduate degree for the GKS, I guess my tip a while ago would still stand. You can look at other routes, like through universities. Look at have a list of universities you want, and then try to check their websites if there are some, how is the application process, and if there are scholarships. There are universities that have like GKS level scholarship na you have a maintaining grade pero parang basically sure na yung scholarship mo until you finish the program, unless mag-flunk ka, of course. But there are some scholarships na per semester, and yun medyo mahirap talaga yun kasi you need to be on top, parang top percentile in order for you to have the scholarship. So if I'm not mistaken, the most of the requirements for Korean universities are quite similar for international students. So my advice is have a list of universities you want to apply to, and then check if they have scholarship opportunities, and apply directly as an alternative to GKS. Of course, the GKS can be the most stable because it's backed by the Korean government. Whatever happens, you have the Korean government backing you while you're studying there. But what I'm saying is, diverse na ang mga scholarships ngayon, so don't be afraid to look at other places.
Okay, thank you for that, Sir RJ. Are you going to add anything? Is there something you want to add? Miss Mahgie, Sir Gino?
Dahil lang sa sinabi ni RJ that you need to have the list of the universities that you want to apply to. Yung KGSP na GKS na ngayon, di ba RJ, yung KGSP? So they are posting this their application, di ba? When they open their application sometime September or March, nagpa-publish sila ng application. Kahit na hindi GKS yung a-applyan ninyo, you can use that list of universities kasi yun yung isa sa pinaka-kompleto. Nandun na yung information na kahit na hindi GKS yung track nyo, kahit na hindi kayo university track or embassy track, university track kayo, you can use that information, yung downloadable information na yan, for you to be able to choose the university na gusto ninyo, na nag-offer ng courses na gusto ninyo. So, pwede nyo na yung gamitin. So, just download it and explore kung ano ba yung mga courses na ino-offer sa specific universities. Lalo na baka may preference pa yung iba dyan na, ayoko sa Seoul, gusto ko Busan area, yan, Gyeonggi area, yan. So, makakatulong yung listahan na yan para sa inyo. Ayun lang.
Thank you, Miss Mahgie. Let's go with the next question. Okay, the next question, may I ask for suggestions po kung ano ang mga useful majors if you wish to pursue a career in DFA or kung gusto nyo pong maging diplomat. Who would like to answer this question?
If you want to become a diplomat, you take the course that you like. Okay? It does, hindi ibig sabihin that you would take international studies or meron bang course in foreign service, mga ganun. So, hindi necessary na yun yung, ako, si RJ at si Gino, we took different majors. Pati yung mga batchmate namin, iba rin ang majors. We have batchmates na lawyers na, so iba-iba talaga kami ng background. So, if you want to be a diplomat, okay, kahit kunin mo yung kurso na gusto mo, kahit math pa yan, kahit ano pa yan, okay, you take the course that you like. Okay, so ayun lang naman. Wala in terms of background, educational background, pasok ang kahit anong background, kahit medicine pa yan. Okay.
May batchmate kami ng doktor, by the way.
Yes.
May batchmate kami sa foreign service na doktor. May mga molecular biologist din. Ako, engineer. So, kahit ano talaga. Oo. Actually, lahat naman on the job mo na matututunan eh. Sa totoo lang. Diba? Kami nga may training pa, pero pagdating nung sa trabaho talaga, iba pa rin eh. So, on the job yun. Basta 4-year degree, tapos 2 years working experience, or 2 years of graduate studies. Yan ang kailangan mo. Yan ang minimum. Diba? Hindi pwedeng pagka-graduate ng college mag-FSOE. So, 4 years of bachelor or 2 years of advanced studies or work experience.
Siguro sa ano na lang po, sa skills set na lang. So if you, kasi yung tanong naman niya is, what useful major if you used to pursue a career in the DFA. So in short, kahit anong major, siguro ang mas i-practice nyo na lang po is to express your thoughts in writing, especially sa mga nag-prepare for FSOE. Kasi you can, dahil nga iba-iba tayo ng major, doon naman sa exam is how you express yourself in writing. Yun yung isa sa pinakamahalaga naman na magiging panlaban mo during the exam. Yun na lang po siguro.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mahgie Soriano, for answering the question. The next question. Okay, the next question. When do internships in embassies and consulates usually open? Is this on a seasonal basis, or can we directly contact HRs to express an intention for such? Also, does the DFA itself have internships? Who would like to answer
Personally,
the
hindi ko
question?
alam. Parang may HRMO, di ba? So, you can check out. Follow niyo yung DFA page. Baka maglalagay sila ng Facebook page ng DFA or Instagram. Minsan kasi yung mga job openings nandun. So, baka we can ask our batchmates sa HR. Yeah. I've met people who they intern with particular embassies natin. Like, I've met people from ICUM ata. Nag-i-intern sila sa Philippine Embassy in Wellington. That's New Zealand, our embassy in New Zealand. So, yeah, there are many ways. Pero, yeah, you can contact HR. Pero, you have to understand na there are many phone calls coming in. So, maybe the most accessible one for you is just to check the website. DFA website, DFA Facebook page. Yeah.
I think yun sa embassies and consulates, they usually post online dun sa mga websites nila. But if there are no postings, so some of the people I know na nag-internship sa embassies dito, you can directly send an email if there are available internships kung wala nakapost. Tapos kailangan mo na, for example. I think some courses kasi nagre-require ng mga internship. Parang may ganun akong alam na master's program na non-thesis track. Tapos, dahil non-thesis siya, ang kanyang parang kapalit ay internship. So, kasi hindi naman lahat pinopost, maybe, kaya sa tingin ko hindi siya seasonal din kasi yung iba pinopost, yung iba hindi. So, kung ano dito is kailangan mong mag-email blast sa mga embassies kung saan ka interesado na mag-internship. Yan yung alam ko sa mga friends ko na nag-internship sa embassies.
Ay, add ko lang pala, may si Ambassador Gary, nakakuha daw siya ng intern via LinkedIn. So, pwede niyong i-add yung mga kilala niyong ambassadors. They're kind people. Yan. Minsan nagre-reply sila sa direct message. I think may isang intern from University of the East ata nakakontak sa kanya. Pwede yun. Maraming paraan. Pag may gusto, may paraan.
Okay po, thank you. We have time for last two questions. So, next question, please. Okay, the next question. They're graduating university students. So, would you recommend gaining work experience first in the Philippines after graduating before applying for masters in Korea?
Ako, yes for me, actually. This is recommendable kasi it would also reflect, na meron ka na talagang career path na gusto mo, and you already have practice, hindi lang theory. Unless, of course, the track that you want to go to is academe. So that's different. But in any case, yes, having work experience is very is recommendable.
Ako naman, kahit na okay yung sinabi ni RJ, kasi pag may work experience ka na, maganda kasi siya sa papel. Kasi 'di ba, remember, hindi ka naman ini-interview agad when you're applying for a scholarship. Okay? Yung first stage is they are just screening your paper. So it has to be impressive. Pero kahit na hindi ka pa wala ka pang work experience pero gusto mo na, okay, at kaya mo maging impressive yung papel mo, go for it. Okay, so I know somebody na wala naman siyang work experience pero nakakuha naman siya ng scholarship sa GKS. So as long as kaya mong itodo mo na, itodo mo na yung pagpasikat dun sa papel mo para pag in-screen nila is shoot ka na nila sa interview, and that's the time to shine mo na express yung self mo, not in writing. So ayun, so it's not necessary. It may be recommended to have a work experience, but it is not necessary.
Okay, thank you. Sir Gino, are you gonna add something?
Ako lang siguro dun, kung medyo tingin mo tagilid yung grado mo, maganda na may work experience. Mga eng saka science students kasi hindi magaganda grado namin by default. Either super ganda o super pangit. So, ang usual track namin is mag-work muna. No? Kasi hindi generous yung grading system sa amin. So, yun yung parang sa Korea may konting grade inflation. So, tingin nila bakit ganito yung grado ng mga to. So, if you belong to those may grade deflation sa courses nila, I highly recommend mag-work experience kayo. Kasi baka akalain nila na nagpabaya ka lang nung college days mo, when in fact hindi naman. Talagang mababa lang yung mga grado ng mga tao. Which is common in engineering, by the way. No shame here. No shame here. Para sa mga science din, hindi rin ganun kataas. And of course, para alam mo rin, kasi parang tinitignan nila yung mga tao na, ito sakto to sa kailangan ko. Very specialized fields. Hindi siya yung parang generalist kind of course. So, kung may work experience ka doon, syempre ikaw yung kukunin. Kaysa doon sa generalist na kunyari, biology, maraming fields, or chemistry, maraming fields, engineering, maraming fields, subfields. If you have a work experience in a particular field, tapos yung opening for this particular research, gusto nila yung may ganung background. So, case by case, depende kung ano yung field na pinangagalingan mo. If it's a generalist field, go ahead, you can go. Pero kung medyo specialized siya, mag-work ka muna siguro. So, you have something to offer. Kasi yung mga prof ganun mag-isip. At least in my experience, medyo iba kasi yung pinanggagalingan ko. Hindi siya yung parang, okay, meron kang bachelor's degree, cum laude ka. You're going to handle equipment, you're going to handle experiments na parang kapag nilagay ka dun, basang sisiw ka. So you need na may actual ka nang ginawa. Yun yung akin. But if not applicable yung sinabi ko, then go ahead. No problem there. I think applicable yung advice ng iba.
Okay, thank you, Sir Gino, Sir RJ, and Miss Maggie. We have here a comment from Brian Lucy. I love Sir RJ's idea of pushing and creating meaningful connections between the cultures of two countries. That is one good study to pursue. So, okay.
Yeah, well, thank you, Brian, for the comment. Yeah, just going back to the reason why I posed that question, or perhaps a challenge to our viewers today, is because of the fact na yun nga pag uwi ko dito, I realized, Philippines ang pinakamalapit na bansa outside of Northeast Asia, outside of Korea. And why is that? They have more historical exchanges, for example, with our neighboring countries. When in fact this is the nearest country. So I hope we have a lot of exchanges, of course, with other Northeast Asian countries like Japan and China, and all of these are promoted publicly. And I hope that as Koreanists and as potential Koreanists, we will all collectively help in trying to dig out these pieces of information, so that we'll be able to strengthen Philippine Korea ties through historical ties and eventually people to people exchanges.
Thank you very much, Sir RJ. And of course, thank you very much to Miss Maggie and Sir Gino as well. So, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for the open forum. Thank you very much, everyone, for your active participation in today's event. And that concludes our open forum. Before we formally conclude today's event, I would like to ask if there's anything you wish to promote or to share, or any additional things you want to say. Let's start with Miss Maggie.
Wala naman akong gustong i-promote. Wala akong YouTube channel. So, I think I wish to invite everyone to vote for, alam ko marami dito nagsusubscribe sa A-pop books. And I wish to promote the translated works of my friends and colleagues, Casey Santa Ana Rico and Miss Be, Kyung Min Be. So, sana iboto nyo sila sa Filipino Reader's Choice Awards Translated Works category. So, alam niya ng mga A-poppers, mga nang go-order sa A-pop ng book. So, that's it.
How about Sir Gino?
Ako, wala. Please like the page of the Department of Foreign Affairs. Kung may kailangan kayo sa mga passport and visa nyo, dun kayo mag-message. Dun lang po, please. Ano ba? Yun lang naman. KRC as well and PICO, Pinoy Scholars in Korea. If you want to know more about Korea, since gusto niyo naman mag-Korea. Yung DFA for FSO. That's it, and thank you very much.
Lastly, Sir RJ.
I think it's the same things that I want to say, but again, also in line with this the objective of this event, of trying to hear the voices of Koreanist diplomats. Perhaps what I can suggest or recommend is, if you have not visited the shrine of Saint Andrew Quintegon in Lolomboy, Bulacan, I highly encourage you to visit. It's one of the few historical sites that we have here in the Philippines that really shows the historical connections between Philippines and Korea. There is this mango tree there that apparently Kim Daegon, Saint Andrew, wept. And the story of him weeping in the mango tree because he is longing for his hometown is actually exhibited in his birthplace in Hapcheon in South Korea. So and maybe finally, I hope that like us, there would be more Koreanist diplomats in the future. Keep the dream alive. Reach out to KRC to contact us regard if you have more questions in the future. Let's continue to keep in touch. 감사합니다.
Okay, so once again, thank you to Sir RJ, Miss Maggie, and Sir Gino. With that, we formally conclude today's event. Once again, thank you so much for our panelists for being with us today. I am sure our audience learned a lot today. And thank you very much to our live audience for joining us today. Uh, there will be an evaluation form that you have to fill up to get your e-certificates. So kindly answer the evaluation form through to the link in front of your screen or on the comment section down below. For other updates or future events, please visit UPKRC's Facebook page and also visit UPKRC's YouTube channel later to access the recording of today's lecture. Please also visit UP Arirang's Facebook page for future events and updates. So we hope to see you again in our future events, everyone. Thank you and have a safe and happy weekend. 감사합니다. Maraming salamat.
Salamat po. 감사합니다.
Po.